Well, a six-screen Saturday night, June 4th, 2022, and we have a program coming on here next. It's called Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower. We're just going to mute everyone here, and we're going to have Anne-Marie unmute herself here in a second. But anyways, the program is Touched by the Tentacles of the Watchtower, and we have a host of former Jehovah's Witness. Her name is Anne-Marie, and she's coming in from Northern California, and she wants to talk to you guys tonight. She wants to talk to you about the Watchtower and how it is to be a witness in there today, and some of the terrible experiences you have while you're a Jehovah's Witness, and even in the exiting stage. So she's on with us tonight. Anne-Marie, all you have to do is hit *6, and you should be all set to go. If not, I'm going to open it up for you. Go ahead and try it, Anne-Marie. Hit *6. I guess not. All right, so let's just do this. And open mode. We're in
all participants are unmuted.
Okay, Anne-Marie, go ahead. Hit *6. You're all right to go. Okay, Anne-Marie.
Okay, set up. Can you hear me? I said it was unmuted.
Yeah, you're all set, Anne-Marie. So go ahead. I'm just doing some technical stuff here. So welcome the audience in. You're on YouTube.
Okay. A lot of noise. Sorry about that. Okay. We got a lot of background music or noise. That's okay. Am I on or what?
You're on. Yep.
Okay. I'm just hearing a lot of noise.
All right. I'm trying.
Okay. So today is June 4th, 2022. I'm on a live show here. Moose, I have a husband trouble. You ever have one of those who gets cranky? That's part of being touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. And today is Saturday again, June 4th, 2022, touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower. And I'm always trying to come up with a subject to think of. Rick came up with a good one. He was saying, you know, if you're in Watchtower and you know that you're just so tired of it, and you really just wish you could just snap your fingers and be out, be gone. But there are consequences. And so he thought of asking yourself, if you're still in Watchtower, if you're a PMO, you've come all the way to where you realize in your mind, this is not God's anything. This is not the only true religion. This is not the truth. Okay. So the thing is, what would you be willing to lose? What would you be willing to give up? What would you be willing to lose to come out of the Watchtower? You know, and I don't know about you, but it seems like you lose everything, your reputation, your family, your friends. What? Okay. So, yeah, Rick was thinking about that. And I was just wondering, before I went on to what I thought of to talk about today, is I was just kind of wondering if anybody had thought about that. I mean, like, when you realized when you were in the Watchtower at some point that you were unhappy, did you stop and think about what you would lose or what you would have to go through or face or deal with? Maybe you'd lose your job because your employer was a witness, or your entire family or friend or support system was all based on Watchtower, and you'd lose all that. Anybody have any ideas in that area that you could share? I know I never could think of losing everybody. Anybody out there today on the phone line? The other thing I was thinking about is, you know, I was on Reddit. I go on Reddit just to kind of see what's going on. And, you know, somebody was talking about birthdays. Some guy posted, hey, I just celebrated my birthday for the second time. I think he was like 34. And he posted, you know, that he had celebrated his birthday. So it turned out, he said, well, a lot of my Jehovah's Witness friends, go. And so, okay, I'm sorry, I have two children and nobody's paying attention. So this guy posts his birthday party. He's really happy. He's given himself permission to celebrate his birthday. Oh, and he said a lot of his Jehovah's Witness friends who had been kind of putting up with him will say that all of a sudden they all got angry. He said they scattered, like he had done something so bad, like they had caught him in Satan worship. And they all unfriended him, and he was very hurt. So I had replied like, well, it's funny that these witnesses don't seem to understand that it's not some big thing to celebrate your birthday. That I remember I had run into a woman in 1975, I believe. She was in her early 90s, and she told me, she was serving under Russell, and then Rutherford. And she had told me how for years and years, birthday celebrations were very important. Anybody have a comment? I heard somebody talking. So anyway, I responded to the Reddit that witnesses did actually used to celebrate birthdays. And also I quoted Job, how in the very beginning of Job chapter 1, you can find it in the New World Translation, that it was the custom for Job's grown children to celebrate the birthday of whatever sibling it was in the sibling's house. The birthday boy, everybody just went to that sibling's house, and they didn't just have a birthday party. They actually partied for days. And if you remember in the beginning of Job, Job is described as being highly favored from God. Now, if birthdays were such a sin, surely Job would have known, because he was absolutely dedicated to serving God, to doing what was right for God. And so I said, just in case nobody gets it, that this day, their day, the Bible says that Job's children would celebrate each other's day. This was their day. And I said, knowing Jehovah's Witnesses, they love to nitpick and turn things around. Well, that doesn't say birthday. But to make sure that they do understand that actually was their birthday we're celebrating. If you go in the beginning of chapter 3, where Job is lamenting during his suffering, he's lamenting his day, specifically the day of his birth. Well, the day of his birth is birthday. It's funny, you say birthday and they break out in highs, but you can say the day of his birth, you can say their day, the day they were born, but if they say birthday, they break out in highs, these people who follow Watchtower so heavily programmed. So I just basically said those two things, how he had met the woman that verified that Watchtower had always celebrated birthdays for many years, and I quoted Job. Well, this very heavily indoctrinated witness came on and just started going all over the place with Watchtower rhetoric that was just going all over the place, making no sense. You decided to leave God's organization. Why don't you just admit it? You can't live up to this and this, that, and that, and this, and I said, I had to comment, because just trying to read through the comment was so crazy. It felt like my eyeballs were starting to twirl in opposite directions. So I just said simply something to the effect of, just like all other heavily indoctrinated Watchtowerites, when they respond to something, they don't even realize they're not making sense, because they're all over the place talking about perfection and God's only organization and not living up to Jehovah's righteous standards. But they can't seem to focus on what their point is. I mean, they're responding to something, obviously, but then again, they don't seem to know how to respond to something, obviously. So I simply said, when you guys go off like this, you don't seem to realize you're not making any sense, and you're definitely not even making a point. And I left it at that. And I thought, here's the thing I told Rick. I said, how in the world were we able to be in this organization so heavily under the heavy hypnosis of a mind control cult, but yet we were in the world, working, banking, shopping, paying our bills, taking care of our children, cleaning our house, cooking, mending, doing laundry. How was it that we seemed that we were so normal? Hi, baby. How could we be so completely hypnotized and yet somehow function like a normal person? So does anybody by any chance have any thoughts on either Rick's idea, what would you be willing to give up or lose coming out of the Watchtower? Or how do you feel about how did we survive being under heavy hypnosis but yet still able to act normal? Anyone?
Well, I'll be the icebreaker, Anne-Marie. Can you hear me?
I'm right here, dear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, yes, I can. So I'll be the icebreaker. And, you do have to give up a lot to leave the Watchtower. I can understand there are some that wouldn't. I lost, and I knew ahead of time that I was going to lose 50 of my relatives. That's not friends, that's just relatives on my mother's side. I knew that was going to happen, but I said, damn the torpedoes. I had to take a Harry Truman approach here. I wasn't going to kind of pretend. Now, I'm not in any way saying that a PMO can't do this for a while, but after a while, it really does get to you. We had a man on our program last Saturday night. He kept his name silent for 30 years. He was like fading and didn't want people to know who he was. But he came out clean last week on our program. So after a while, you say, that's it. I'm going to come forth. But just to give you an idea, well, we all know what people lose. They lose all their friends. They lose all their relatives. And in some respects, they lose their job even. If a person's working for Jehovah's Witness and they say, that's it, I don't want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore, that person can lose their job. Or maybe a landlord is one of Jehovah's Witnesses and they hear that you don't want to be a witness, they'll evict you. So in some cases, it is too extreme, I understand. But if it's not really that bad, I would say if it's really not that bad, I would say to exit the Kingdom Hall door and don't return. So I lost about 50 relatives. They still won't speak to me, but I feel better now. I feel better now than if I was still a witness and pretending to still be one. I feel like I have freedom now, and if they don't want to speak to me, that's their problem. So that's my feelings, and I'm sure there's others that have feelings too, Anne-Marie. So see if we can't get some people.
No doubt. You can only do what you can do. I was very close to a witness couple that I grew up with. They were like my aunt and uncle. I'd known them since I was 6 years old. And I was visiting with them one summer, and they had a very nice house, very nice little neighborhood in a rural area. I enjoyed their congregation. But, I found out later that their landlord found out they were Jehovah's Witnesses and he kicked them out. It happens.
Yeah, it does.
So are you on YouTube right now?
You're on YouTube right now. This program is on YouTube and on Facebook, yes.
Okay, well, I was just looking because I can't see anybody.
Yeah.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. We decided to bring it up on YouTube tonight so people can kind of get to see a program, or at least listen to it. And so it's up there.
What's it called? I can't see anything. I'm looking up Rick Farron, 6 Screens of the Watchtower. Just what do I?
Well, go to my Facebook page. You'll see it there. Go to Rick Farron Facebook.
Oh. Okay, I want to apologize for my girls. I'm really having a hard time, and they're making lots of noise. They're being 2 and 3. And I want to apologize to everyone for the noise. I think it's so
I want
important
to
that
apologize for my girls. I'm really having a hard time.
Yeah, hold on one second,
And I
Anne-Marie.
want to apologize to everyone for the noise.
All right. All right. So, anyways, if Anne-Marie would like to get someone to call in here and say what did you lose when you left the Watchtower? Did you lose anything? Do you feel like you really shouldn't have? What do you think?
yeah, there are definitely serious consequences. Anyone would like to share, what they lost? It's pretty awful. Like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mentioned my story a couple of weeks ago, but to lose your family, and that's a lot to lose, especially in today's world when it's really hard to make attachments with other people. And I knew going out that I'd lose my girls, and they were precious to me. But I have to say, if I would have changed anything, I probably should have gone to a slow fade. And I think that's what I recommend for most people to do. And that way, because witnesses don't know how to treat you, they don't treat you with disdain or, just look at you down their noses like you're a piece of trash. Because that's hard to bear. It really is. It's harder than you think. I sat
It's so
during
judgmental.
when I was in fellowship, and I didn't think it was going to be that hard. It was really hard. I thought the world was on my shoulders. But most people have, and they do.
Well, 8 months later.
But
Yeah.
one thing I did lose that I was glad I did was my ex-husband's family. They were really difficult for me to deal with.
Yeah,
So I was glad to lose them, which sounds kind of sad.
My children grew up without grandparents. Is somebody else talking?
We got friends. I'm going to be muting. Don't anybody touch their telephone. I'm going to mute all those that you don't touch your telephone. I'm muting you now. If anyone wants to talk, you can by hitting *6, but don't hit *6 until you're ready to talk. We've got a lot going on the lines here right now, so let's just don't speak up unless you want to talk. You hit *6. When you're done, hit *6, and that will mute you. Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was basically done. You win some and you lose some when you leave the Watchtower. There are benefits, but there's also the negative side. And I knew by becoming involved with the 6 screens that I was going to lose all future contact with my girls. But even if I could have snuck out just being on the 6 screens, it wasn't going to work out. But I was so happy. I decided, many don't, but I decided to follow the Christian path. And I'm much happier. I feel much more settled in my life. I have a moral compass to follow that guides me. And so you win some and you lose some when you leave the Watchtower. Hello?
You're on with us, Anne-Marie. Go ahead.
This is Chewy.
Go ahead, Joey.
Well, it's actually kind of difficult to say this, but I don't know what I haven't really thought about that, but some people give their lives to Watchtower. They would rather, and that's happened this past week. Some people commit suicide. They don't want, that's as far as they want to go. I mean, that's a long stretch. I mean, they had one. I was watching one yesterday on Watching the World, and I'm sure Rick's going to get in, or he might get into it. But anyway, I'm not going to steal his thunder. But there was one on Watching the World, and I was talking to Barbara Anderson. I hadn't called her in a while, and I called her, and she actually knew him. It was in her area. She knew him, and he was a witness, and he was lined up to be disfellowshipped, and he committed suicide. He committed suicide, and Barbara Anderson knew him. Anyway, so that's all I'm going to say on that.
I'm glad you said it. I'm glad
it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. the way he was treated. Just absolutely demonic. Absolutely demonic.
Chewy, this is Rick. Were you talking about Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. In fact, he was on our 6 screens on the Heart to Heart program twice, and he was just on a few weeks ago. He told his whole story, and of course, he committed suicide. And I'll tell you that the fellow that runs or at least holds the Heart to Heart program here in the 6 screens, he's distraught over the whole thing. He got to know him pretty well. In fact, he was going to go down in the next couple of weeks to see Michael and to help him out and to encourage him. He was going to leave and go all the way from Idaho and drive all the way down to Tennessee. And it was really a horrific thing. The elders treated that man terrible.
Yes.
And why don't you tell Anne Marie? You got some things. Why don't you share part of what you know about Michael? What you heard? Go ahead.
Well, I was talking to Barbara Anderson today on a totally different reason. I just happened to call her, and there was another reason. I'll get into that in a minute. But she said, this is what she said, and she knew him too. And she said that because he committed a suicide, Watchtower doesn't touch that funeral, but they did. And what she said was that Watchtower had him go ahead and do the funeral to make it look good. They had a bunch of people at his funeral, but he was a witness. He wasn't disfellowship. He committed suicide, and Watchtower went ahead and told them to go ahead and do the funeral just for, well, she didn't say for appearances, but that's what it was for. It was for appearances. That way it would make everything look good. You know, you got to have a funeral if you're a witness, right? You know, and you want to look good. So that's why they did it. So, and there was another guy, she said 2 or 3 months ago, that committed suicide that she knew, and I didn't know him. I didn't recognize his name, but she's got some information that she's going to publish, and it's a book, and probably be a very good book when we get it. But my heart just goes out to that dude. I watched him yesterday on Watching the World, and then I happened to call Barbara Anderson, and she knew him, and I went, oh my goodness. So, but anyway, the reason I was calling her, the initial reason, was I came in contact with an ex-Bethelite that I knew. We were on the same cruise, and he knew Joe Anderson too. And he's been out for years, and I've been trying to track him down, and I just tracked him down last weekend. I called him on Monday, Memorial Day, and he answered the phone, and we talked there for about an hour and a half. And I told him I knew had Joe's number and this and that, so I called Barbara to see if it'd be all right to flip it to him. And she said, yeah, sure, go ahead. But anyway, but we talked there, and he got out because of the UN, and he said his whole family, I couldn't believe this. I wish I would have had a recording of it, but it was years ago. But he said his family got up and walked out of a district convention because the final talk, the brother said, and no one else caught it. He said, no one else caught it. He says, and we pledge allegiance to the governing body. And his dad said, oh, crap, we're done. And they walked out and never came back. That's all I got.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. It's just, there just seems to be no bound of coldness, cruelness, meanness, or evil that they'll do. Did anybody ever remember the story of the boy, the young brother who was a good Jehovah's Witness? You know, he was a sweetheart, but he had a drinking problem, and he was caught a couple times with DUIs, and the brothers had warned him that he was bringing shame upon Jehovah and that he needed to stop. And he said he would, but at one point, I guess, he did it again, and he got into an accident and he died. Now, when he died, he was not on reproof. He was not disfellowship. Excuse me. Okay, stop. Excuse me. This is not a good day. So I don't know why they did this, but this brother at the time of death, again, was not disfellowship, was not under reproof or any of that, and they decided to disfellowship him posthumously, posthumously, I can't say that word, so that they could refuse to do a service for him. Anybody remember that? Anybody there?
No, I'm here. I don't remember that. I will say this about the other thing. I don't remember that. But in that video I was watching on that Michael, the wife, which I guess she's still in, she probably is. But anyway, she went up to the elders. Well, what am I going to do about my husband? What's going to happen now? And one of them said, "Oh, you can marry one of us."
Okay.
That is just, that's diabolical. Anyway, I got to drop off for a little bit.
Okay, anybody else want to speak? Anybody else can help me out? I've got a little situation here to deal with. Yes, go ahead, please, go.
Hi, Hammer.
Hello, Rick, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. If you could talk, that would be great.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't sure if you could hear me. Yeah, what it is, I just thought I'd chip in to give you a couple of minutes. I mean, I haven't personally lost any family from leaving the organisation. I mean, my youngest daughter was already out of it, although she pleaded with me and said I was making a mistake when I said I was permanently leaving. She now realises, and thought again, and she's, she's fully supportive, and she's doing her own thing now. So, lots of, and some really, and they won't speak to me anymore, which is fine. But I can't say that I've lost people in the way that others have. They certainly I haven't had my life destroyed by losing family or anything like that. However, what I've gained from leaving is I've regained my dignity, I've regained my self-confidence, my free will, and I've gained, in my case, a relationship with Christ. So do I regret leaving? Not for 1 minute. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you're free to carry on again, I'm sort of finished. If you're finished being busy.
Okay. Is that it? Hello?
Yeah, hello, that was it. Thanks.
Oh, well, thank you for your comment. Anyone else like to add to that?
Could I add, Anne-Marie?
Oh, please do.
I think, too, think about your life in 10-year sections. And the closer you leave to 20, the better off you are. So if you're thinking, well, I'll wait until this milestone, or I turn 65, or my kids get married, or whatever, I'll wait till those milestones. Of course, that's your business. I certainly would have wanted to see my girls married, but they were getting married about the time I was leaving. That caused a lot of problems. But I would think about leaving in steps. I would make a plan, because if you don't make a plan, you plan to fail. And stick to the plan and your decisions on what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and be as young as you can, because then you can start your life over as much as possible. Because you'll need to do that. You won't believe how in even little ways you'll have to start your life over. But it's a good thing. And you learn to start thinking for yourself. You don't have this group think going on. You have what's good for me, and then what's good for my family, then what's good for my nation, and what's good for the world, and in that order. You don't always put the Watchtower first in all things.
Exactly. Isn't that the way it always is? It's not about you or your life or your family or your job or your personal problems. Watchtower's always first.
Well, what surprised me is when they did change the questions for the baptism, saying that you're dedicating yourself to basically the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. And that's a scary thing, because you're dedicating yourself to these old men sitting up in some boardroom somewhere, so out of touch with reality. It's not a good place to be, because the rules change all the time. When the rules change, they're never in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Oh my God! You know what? I don't know how we survived. I don't know how anybody survived this cult. It's just insanity. It really is. Anyone else want to speak up or have a thought? What's that? What's that?
Well, I was just saying, well, it's not important. I don't want to take up all your time, Anne-Marie.
Hey, Anne-Marie, this
very nice. I love hearing that.
Anne-Marie,
You bring up really good stuff. You do.
Anne-Marie, this is Rick coming in here from the control panel. I'm going to ask you to kind of keep your phone pretty stationary. A lot of static noise is coming. A lot of static noise is coming from your phone. So just remind yourself that that's a microphone. So you got to kind of keep it steady. Don't lay it down, because we hear it banging around. So kind of just keep an eye on that. Okay? Yep.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, we can hear that you have a handful going on over there. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah, it's we had a major accident that went everywhere, and they're yelling and fighting. So I've never had a day this bad. So I apologize to everyone.
Oh.
Okay, I'm gonna mute my microphone. Hope it helps.
Well, if you mute the microphone, we're not going to be able to hear you. Well, anyways, I'm not sure what's going on with Anne-Marie today, but if she mutes the microphone.
No, I just muted the microphone on my phone so I wouldn't, cause so much noise. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's you just like I said, just try to remember that's a microphone. So I know it's very sensitive. Yeah, the phone is very sensitive. Yep.
Yes, sir. I'm very, very sorry. Apologize to everyone.
No, not a matter of apologizing. Just want to get it right for you. I know it's a new phone, so I just want to get it so the people can hear you really well. All right.
Yeah. I'm just hoping that maybe someone has a thought like what I was thinking of earlier. I listened to how indoctrinated Watchtowerites respond to those who are basically deprogrammed out of the Watchtower, and you could just tell they're completely operating on programming. And I'm just wondering, I know I was one of those. We all must have been one of those. How did we live in a normal world, act pretty normal, able to work and do normal things that normal people do, but yet we were completely under the programming of Watchtower? And I'm at a loss for words, and I was just wondering if anybody had any thoughts on that.
Well, I think you would have to be a robot. Go ahead.
Hello. Hi, everybody. This is Christine.
Hi, Christine. So good to hear from you.
I had a thought. Been dwelling on it lately. I was in since I was a teenager, and I think when we're young and whatever age we get in, we form an identity that has been formed for us. So when you're indoctrinated, you don't form your identity, say, as someone who has a life, and as you grow up, from childhood, and then you get involved in different roles. So you take on different identities, mother, wife, employee, neighbor. I mean, we have so many roles that we play in our life. And when you're indoctrinated by the Watchtower, though, that identity of being a JW comes way above any other role. So whatever role you get into as you're going through different stages, it's always dominated and in under the authoritarian position that we are to form that role according to their standard, according to Watchtower's indoctrination. So you don't form these different roles on your own with your own critical thinking, with your own learning through life. You form them. You submit to their decision of what you are to be, but it's always under their indoctrination first. Be a JW, and then you're a father. A JW, then you're a mother. Then you're a dog. You know. So what happens when my thought? This is my thought. I'm not an authority on anything. I'm not a psychologist. But my thought is that when you leave, you lose all of it. You don't just lose, I'm a JW. You lose, I'm a JW mother. I'm a JW daughter. I'm a JW, whatever, whatever. It's always infiltrated. And I guess I would like to use the term identity theft. So whatever your identity would be in a natural time chronologically in your life is taken over. So I was in 45 years, and I know some of you were in long time, like me. And I think you're, like you said, if you can get out in your 20s and not go through all the different stages of your life with that domination, with that, this is the kind of person you have to be as a mother. This is the kind of person. And of course, I believe in Christian values, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about they steal your identity. And you don't even know it. And when I woke up at age 60, I was traumatized. I didn't know who I was. I honestly, when I woke up, and it wasn't on purpose, I just woke up. I found some things out, and it turned me around. And I'm still, after 4 years out, I still have a hard time. I wake up in the morning and I go, who am I? And I do feel that my identity. Oh, like Sudafed? Oh, I'll finish then. I'm sorry I rambled too long, but I was just trying to share a thought. Maybe others could share if they felt the same way, that they lost their identity when they left, and they have to deal with that. Anyway, thank you.
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about what you said, and I never thought of it that way. You're right. Every role that you played, whether you were a wife, a teacher, a mother, a neighbor, a daughter, a friend, everything was by the Watchtower script. And when you come out of it, when you realize that can't be your life anymore, when you said you didn't know who you were, I totally can identify with that. I think just about all of us can identify with that, because your whole identity, because of the programming of this mind control cult, they're the ones that tell you who you are. Mm-hmm. If you're good enough, if you're not good enough, if you're failing, if you're, I love the one where they'd say you fall short. You don't want to fall short. Oh, I love what you said, Christine. Any more of that good stuff?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, dear.
Yeah. Hey, it's Chad. And you asked earlier how you could get sucked into this, how you could get so deep into it. And I have an answer for you, and it's very simple. It happens very slowly. Very slowly.
They start with little things like studying the Bible together, and then they get you to start doubting little things about your worldview. And then it starts where they get you start doubting just things about the world in general. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, you are getting baptized and you're becoming a member. And then once you're baptized and you're a member, it's a whole new world that's opened up to you. And you've expected part of it, but what you haven't expected is that you now have to leave your entire life behind you. And you're starting a new life at this point. They've already got you on that road. But now you're fully committed because you've been baptized into the organization. And
Oh my God, that's the truth.
they're able to do it.
It's so scary because it's always so subtle. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's like Christine said with the whole thing. It ends up taking over your identity. And then, like with, we've seen numerous times just recently with Michael having committed suicide, he lost his identity. He didn't know what else to do. And I mean, it's heartbreaking to me because having never been a Jehovah's Witness, I was really on the fence if I really wanted to stay in this community and try to help Jehovah's Witnesses and ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. The night I made up my mind to stay into it and to really commit to it was the night Michael shared his testimony. And I heard that and I said, how can I leave these people?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. It's amazing. I feel like every time somebody shares something, it seems like, well, whatever I have to say, everybody already's heard it before. But you know what? A lot of the times, it's just different. It gives us a different lens, a different view. And it's always something that we can relate to. And it's always true. It's like, oh, yeah. Anything that you want to add to that?
Not that I can think of right now, except for I do want to say this for anyone who wants to come out. I do agree with Rick's wife. I agree with her when she said do it slowly. And I think at that point, you need to get out the same way you got in, do it slowly, but at the same time, start building up a new life outside the Watchtower before you.
Yeah, good advice. Right.
That way,
if it's possible,
that way, just as you transition slowly into the Watchtower, you can transition into a new life. And don't think of it as leaving the Watchtower, because when you wake up that they lied to you, you have to realize you're not leaving them. They left you. They left you because they lied to you when you believed them and they said they were telling the truth. So it's not you leaving them. It's just that you've realized they've lied to you the whole time and they're the ones who really left you. And that's
no doubt. They tricked you, they lied to you, they deceived you, they basically hijacked your brain and your personality, your true natural authentic self, and you didn't realize it. And it's almost like in their hypnotic way of gaining control over you, they gain control over how you felt about yourself, whether you were doing good or wrong, or if you were doing it right or doing it enough, and how you should do it and how you should think and who you should marry, and every single thing about a normal life. They basically had control because they somehow gained control of our minds, our thinking processes. And when we realized that they did that and that it basically manipulated us, and they betrayed our trust, they betrayed our natural, sincere desire to want to serve God. They tricked us into believing that they alone represented God. They alone were the true religion, the only true religion, They alone were approved of by God. And if you wanted to have God's approval, you had to have their approval. Like you said, in every which way but loose. They fooled you, tricked you, manipulated you, lied to you. And then they held emotional blackmail over you of losing your friends, your family, your reputation, and a lot of times your job, your entire support system. And it's a sad, scary thing. You know, a lot of, especially nowadays, a lot of witnesses have their own businesses. Might be a car detailing place. I know one dear brother, he has his own very successful electrical company. He hires witnesses. A lot of people do things like that, and they always want everything that you do, everything you're connected with, to be as thoroughly connected to Watchtower as possible, so that you have that much more to lose should you ever dare to think that you can leave this cult. And it does cause a lot of trauma. Anyone have any thoughts? I didn't mean to keep talking. Anyone at all? *6. We all are touched. Tentacles. Yes, go ahead, sweetheart, please.
I was wondering how you felt when you left. Maybe you could remind some of us, because I know what a normal person does is wake up in the morning and decide how I fit into the world. But if you're a witness, you wake up in the morning and you say to yourself, how do I fit into the Watchtower today? So how are some things that you got into getting back into your world? I'd be interested to have you talk about those.
Well, I never quite, please forgive my crying children here. When I left, I still believed. I just knew I mentally and emotionally couldn't go back. But I did remember realizing, once I realized I couldn't go back, for my own sanity. If God's going to kill me, God's going to kill me. That's just the way it is. But the first thing that hit me, I remember I was standing in the middle of my living room a couple of days after I had to come out of the Watchtower, got kicked out, that I had to think for myself. And for so long, it was always, what would Jehovah want me to do? What does the Watchtower say? What would Sister Pioneer say? What would Brother Arrogant say? What would Brother Elder say? I never felt that I could think for myself. So it was difficult. It was very difficult. So I realized I had to at least try to practice. I guess they call it adulting now. And I was a little scared, but it also felt kind of heady. Like, it's like living in your parents' house and you've had every single facet of your life dictated by them. My house, my rules. And all of a sudden, you have a job and you have your own little apartment and nobody's going to tell you what to do because this is your place. It's a very freeing and heady experience, but it's kind of scary because you've never done that. I mean, as witnesses, we were trained to always look to the Watchtower to tell us what to do, how to do it, how long to do it, when to stop. So it was a heck of a long, long process. So I just basically put aside any fear that I was going to die. I wasn't going to think of anything in any way that basically wouldn't serve me. I'm not going to feel guilty. I'm not going to feel afraid. I'm not going to worry about things I really couldn't do anything about because it didn't serve me. And I know a lot of people who break free from the Watchtower, they're mentally and emotional. It's like they have torture going on. It's like somebody said in the Watchtower, it's almost like part of the programming is a kill switch. You get into depression or suicidal thoughts or sometimes suicide because you're afraid that the reason why you feel so bad is because, oh my God, what if they're right? I left Jehovah, I left the organization. Jeff?
Hello.
Hey, go ahead.
I wanted to say something from a different viewpoint, really, because I was in there from the time I was in diapers. You know, I was practically born in, and when I left, I left young. I decided I was gonna go, didn't look back, and kept going. But even though I was out, and even though I knew I didn't want to go back, I was trained from the time I was young to become a JW woman, right? So you're taught you're supposed to act this way, talk this way, dress this way, all these kinds of things. And when I got out, the very first thing that I noticed was when I started looking around at people, because Watchtower always tells you that, you know, worldly people are going to drag you down, and it'll just be to your detriment to be friends with anybody in the world and all that, right? So I start looking around, and I'm like, you know, there's a lot of God-fearing, Christ-loving people in the world that are not Jehovah's Witnesses that they never told me about. They make you think that, you know, worldly people are drug dealers, drug addicts, alcoholics, wife beaters, all these kinds of terrible things. But they don't tell you that there's a lot of nice people in the world that are caring, loving, generous, good people. And when I was looking around at people, I was like, it made me realize that I was really misled. I was really misled, because you don't have to be a Jehovah's Witness to love God. And you don't have to be a Jehovah's Witness to be a follower of Christ. You don't need somebody telling you how to dress, how to talk, because when you get out and on your own and living in the real world instead of their fantasy world, that you have a mind of your own, and you have your own conscience that can lead you, and you can decide for yourself where to go and who to talk to and what books to read. And you don't need the organization telling you that, and elders telling you that, and everybody over you telling you how to live your life. You can choose that for yourself. And I didn't know that growing up in the organization, that there were so many good things in the world. And I think a lot of people lose track of, they see all the terrible things in the world and all that. Yes, but everybody sees those terrible things. Everybody knows that times aren't good and things like that. But it's a choice that you make of who's your friend, who you surround yourself with, and where you go in your life and what you do is up to you. Because you all were talking about the changes personally, and I think that see, now I forgot what I was going to say. I was on a rant, but
go ahead. No, you're doing great.
Yeah, people can choose for themselves basically what to do and where to go and who to talk to. You know what's right and wrong, or what books you can read, what movies you can watch, and what bothers you, what don't. You don't need an organization telling you those things. It comes naturally as a human being. You don't have to be led around with a hook in your jaw, you know, with people telling you what to do and what you can read and what you can watch and who you can talk to and all that. That's a personal choice. You don't need to let a religion choose that for you, because we know what's right for us, you know. And
absolutely,
when you leave the organization, it seems like no matter what age you are, or really how long you've been in. I guess if you've only been in a couple years, it may not faze you, but they tell you that you're supposed to put on this new personality, and when you're raised in there, you're supposed to act, like I say, act a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way. And if that's not your true self, if you're a blue jeans kind of person and they're making you wear a dress all the time, you know, you're not being true to yourself. And you're not letting yourself show other people really who you are. You know, you have to find yourself, decide who you are, decide maybe you want to go to college and do this or do that, something that the organization looked down on, you know, that you could do this if you wanted to, and, you know, you could be happy doing that for the next 30 years, you know. But I mean, you have to be true to yourself. If you're in the organization and you're letting them dictate to you how to talk, walk, dress, all those kinds of things, you're not being yourself. You're not being who you are. And I think that's why people, when they come out, they lose a sense of who they are. I think most people go through that. They're standing there and like, who am I? You know, what do I like? You know, you have to figure those things out. And everybody feels that loss. And yes, it does leave you depressed, and it does leave you angry, and it leaves you in different states that almost everybody goes through when they leave any cult. Is because you have to sort those things out for yourself, and you have to discover who you actually are. You know, are you a cook and bottle washer, or are you a doctor lawyer kind of person? You know, and you have to decide if those things are right for you in your life. And it can be really hard to face that, and real lonely and frustrating, and you need to find somebody you can talk to or be friends with to help you through those things. You know, because not only is it leaving a cult that does those things to you, but just life in general can make you depressed. You know, so you have to decide, well, am I depressed because life sucks, or am I depressed because I've been lied to my entire life? You know, and then you have to decide, well, what is the problem and how do I need to fix it? And that can take a long time, and it's frustrating. And even that's depressing, because you think you should just leave a cult and you're fine, right? But you're not. There's things you have to go through. There's things you have to sort through. But it's a good thing, because then you're being true to who you are. You're being true to yourself, and you can find your path. You know, I feel really bad for the ones that leave at 60, 70, 80 years old, and they don't have that much of a path left, you know, and have to figure out what they're going to do and how they can be useful in life and things like that. I mean, I left when I was real young, you know, and leaving when you're older is very difficult. But I really encourage everybody that leaves to find somebody that they can talk to and be close to, and find somebody to be friends with, find somebody to talk to, and just enjoy being who you really are. You know, open up, let yourself open up. Don't be afraid, you know. But that's all I have to say. I'm done.
You know, I feel really good about what you said. Does anybody want to comment on what you just said? That was so right on the money. Anybody have any comments? Go ahead.
I wanted to respond. I agree with Denise. she and I have had some discussions about the differences between getting out young and getting out older, because we're both the opposite, and it's helpful to be able to share that. But Anna Marie, I wanted to go back to the point you made about a kill switch. So to add to what I brought out, how I feel about losing my identity, is a witness is also tied into each role under that identity as a JW is a threat. So you're playing all these roles, especially the one of being a witness, and you're under threat to not stop. If you stop, with this new identity, you don't realize it is, but if you stop with that identity and you don't, your mental state is no longer there, there is a threat. And when you brought out, what do we lose? Well, the threat is we lose everything. We lose our reputation. We lose our friends. We lose, many people lose family members of many generations. So the loss is, it's unfathomable. I mean, it's always a large loss, whatever it is. Another thing that happens a lot is the organization is set up to break up marriages. They put on a front that they want people to stay married, but that's a lie, because they direct the elders to be in your business, in your relationships. And the new thing that I hear a lot now is, I didn't used to hear this years ago, but now the new thing is, spiritual endangerment. If your mate no longer goes to the meetings, well, you should leave him or her, because they are endangering you spiritually. So we're talking about loss on every level of your long-term relationships. There's so much loss. It would just be hours talking about all the losses. But my point is, Anna Marie, to agree with you on the kill switch. So you are programmed that if you leave that identity of being a JW, you're worthless. God is going to reject you, and your life has no value. You're going to be destroyed. So when you've been listening to that your whole life, every meeting has an undercurrent. If you leave, you're dead. So that's another thing I wanted to add and respond to what you said. It's not just about your identity; it's about the threat not to leave that identity that they gave you. And that's it. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
No, that's so true, because your identity is also tied up with all of the controls they have, the fear, the shame, the guilt, the emotional blackmail that is always held over your head, that even if you have a thought like, I'm just so tired of living like this, or I wish I'd never heard of the truth, because the burden just seems to be so heavy to bear. It's never going to get easier. You're never going to quite accomplish what you feel you're supposed to accomplish, and you just get so tired. And then you're overwhelmed with guilt. Then you're overwhelmed with fear, because, now Jehovah's going to be mad at me because I have these ungrateful thoughts. So everything, I believe, is tied up in the identity that Watchtower, through their indoctrination, their subliminal hypnotic indoctrination program, embedded in every cell of your being. So it is an insane thing to break away from, and I think none of us really, really, truly realizes the depth of what we experienced and what we managed to escape from, because we don't really have a comparison. We didn't get to live a whole normal life and then go live a life in Watchtower, believe in it, start to realize something's wrong, being a PIMQ, physically in, but mentally you're starting to say something's wrong. I have questions. I don't know about this, until you get to where you're a PIMO. You're physically in, but mentally you realize this is not God's anything. Now, what am I going to do? And then if you make it out, whether you're disfellowshipped, whether you say, I just can't do this anymore, and you walk out knowing you're going to lose everything, and you become a pomo, physically out, mentally out, you still suffer. They've got you every which way but loose. They have all those triggers and Watchtower buttons, and you are going to keep suffering. You're going to keep suffering. It's a sad thing. Even when you realize this was all programmed in me, you're still going to have to figure it out. Come here, Mama. Sorry, I have some emotional children. Please do. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Joe from Colorado. Thank you. I have been out almost 10 years. Are you still there?
I'm right here. I'm happy to hear from you, Joe from Colorado. Go ahead.
I've been out almost 10 years, and I still, what you were talking about, still struggle. It's like
yes, it is.
Has a grip on me. I still have. I'm still plagued with the nightmares. Still plagued with the doom and gloom, and I think a lot of it. See, I started being indoctrinated at 3 years of age with Paradise Lost, Paradise Regained book, and I was raised in the Watchtower until I was 18, and I moved out. I actually moved to Kansas. I was living on my own. I was free from the Watchtower. I actually knew the Watchtower was corrupt. I had an uncle, a cousin, and my mom's husband, who was not my father, were pedophiles. Several elders. One elder actually killed himself. He got in a fight with his wife. The police showed up, and he went after the police with the knife. They cut him in half with a shotgun. I saw all this bad stuff in the congregations that we were in. So I was on my own, free. Then they came knocking, and I regret this to this very day. I made the mistake of when they were talking to me, I said, well, I used to go to the Kingdom Hall. And that opened the door. They guilt-tripped me into studying. And I ended up becoming one of Jehovah's Witnesses in 1983. And so I was back in an organization that I knew was killing people. I lost 2 friends to suicide. On top of that, and I'll try to keep this short. On top of that, when I became an elder, I started seeing really bad stuff. I started doing bad things for the Watchtower. I will tell you that I was on committees where the circuit overseer told us what decision we were supposed to make before we even met with the person. And that was on many occasions. I was involved in a pedophile case, and I was threatened with disfellowshipping because I wanted to report it. Well, I'm going to just tell you what happened. I ended up in a psych facility. I couldn't deal with it, and I ended up getting disfellowshipped. That was almost 10 years ago, and I still cannot get a good night's rest. I've been to counselors. I don't know how to clean my mind from 49 years of Watchtower abuse. I wish I had an answer. And to this day, I've been depressed all day today, because it's not just the fact that I have no friends. I don't know how to make friends, because the Watchtower, the congregation, that's your only tribe. So I don't know how to make friends, and on top of that, I don't trust people. Because one last thing I want to say, I was a very giving person, and I helped a lot of witnesses out. I mean, big time financially. And they all took and never returned money. And I'm talking thousands of dollars. And so I have trust issues. And then along with that, I'm plagued with nightmares. Sometimes I'm afraid to go to sleep. And I'll conclude it this way. I'm going to share two experiences. I had an aunt that called me. She was a non-witness. And she told me, she said, I wish you and your cousins were never in the Watchtower. And I said, what's going on? And she said, Carla got out of the psych facility, and all she does is walk around the house. Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me. And when I asked her about that, she said that's all she says all day. It's like a trance. I actually saw that. One time I got called 3 o'clock in the morning. I was an elder, and I went to a gentleman's house, a brother's house, and he was in a fetal position. Guess what he was saying? Jehovah's going to kill me. Jehovah's going to kill me. And I was trying to help him. And you know why he thought Jehovah was going to kill him? Because he looked at a Playboy magazine. He thought his life was over. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't console him enough. And to this day, I don't know where he's at. He ended up jumping off the grid. But, you know, that's me now. I feel like I wake up, I feel like I'm going to be killed by this God of the Watchtower. And I don't feel I'm worth anything. I don't feel I'm worth anything. And I'm sorry I unloaded on you, but I've talked to counselors. I don't know what to do.
That is Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
You know what I've noticed among Jehovah's Witnesses? All you need to do is go on Reddit, on the XJW site. There's a lot of swearing and anger going on. There's a lot of anger that's being expressed. And I heard once, and this may be true, it may not be, but they say that depression is anger turned inward. So sometimes I'm wondering if you can find out what you're angry about and deal with that. Not that it's going to take away any type of depression, but it might help you figure out which directions you need to go to get the help you need. Because I think a lot of anger.
Brother, there's a book for your therapist. If you go to the ex-witness books on Amazon, there is a book and a workbook that was made for therapists. Okay. And it's about an $8 book. And take that in with you, and maybe you can get the therapy tailored to your needs. Also, if you have any young family to live for, put your energy every day in, well, what do they need? And they'll teach you joy, and they'll teach you to be in the moment. We need to live in the present moment. And please don't beat yourself up over anything.
Well, I don't know who commented about the depression being anger. I know a lot of my depression, I'm angry. 49 years of 3 meetings a week. This is prior to the change. 3 effing meetings. Oh, brother,
I hear you. My dad was 90 years old when he came out and said, I sold miracle wheat. I hear you. I hear you.
I never had time for myself. And then,
I hear you.
Then because I was one of those elders that would actually go help people, I did that, and then it was financial. I'm gonna share this, and I don't know if anybody else. I have been burned by so many witnesses.
Yes.
And then, of course, I also gave a lot of money to the Watchtower, only to be fellowshipped and 10 years. And I'm not asking them to come visit me. I don't want them to come and visit me. But I am angry. Whoever made that comment, I am angry. You get
I hear your anger.
You get 49 effing years, and you're thrown out like a piece of lint.
I hear you.
Within a matter of seconds.
It's not what Jesus would do. I hear you, and I hear your pain, and I hear your anger, and it's righteous wrath. And maybe a therapist can tailor a program to you if you take that book into them. But you're entitled to feel whatever you feel. Write it down and burn the pages. I hear you.
Well, thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
And try that. Sit down with a pen and some ink and paper and write down the most raging things you can think of, and then tear up those pages. And if you have to do that every day for a week, do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I hear you, and I'm sending love and light to you, and I'm sending understanding of. I've seen elders and men that I loved and cared about, and righteous Christian men that had that anger. You're not alone. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Wow, I think that was powerful. I'm just listening to what everybody is saying. It's a hard row, and every single experience of every single one of us is so different, but yet all of us sharing our experiences can totally relate to every detail of every experience and every thought and comment that we relate. Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, I wanted to share one. I had another thought. This is Christine, and I wanted to thank Joe for sharing, because so many of us older ones feel the same way. But here's what I wanted to add, something positive. The thing that helps